Welcome, everyone. My name's Aingaran Pillai. I'm the founder and CEO of Zaizi. Quick background: I've been working with Alfresco for over 7 years. I started off being a one-man consulting band on Alfresco. Loved the technology, was doing a lot of projects, and built up a company on the back of it. So I am Alfresco certified. I'm very technical, so you can ask me technical questions, but I'm going to keep this very business focused. So a bit about Zaizi. We're headquartered, we started off in London, but we have a team in Seville, in Spain, and in Sri Lanka as well. So over the last few years, we've grown. We're over 70 employees, and we were Alfresco Partner of the Year last year. So we do. The reason I put this slide up is because we do a lot of big projects on Alfresco with a lot of content, with a lot of storage, and with a lot of users. And so what we see with Alfresco, and it's been talked a lot today, was this. The big data problem is about putting all of the unstructured data in Alfresco. And I want to talk to you about some of our customers and what they're doing with it. So, for example, you heard from Oxfam this morning. They're a global organization. They have lots of content in their intranet backed by Alfresco backend and a Drupal frontend. They've got a lot of documents. And a key for them about how they go out and they help people around the world when there's a disaster is about finding the right content at the right time. So it's important for them to make sure that the content is easy and discoverable. One of our other customers, they're not in the charity sector. They're complete opposite. They are in commodity trading. They're one of the world's biggest commodity traders, where their turnover was over $1 billion, $100 billion last year. But they're spread across the globe. And what they've done is they've used Alfresco as their standard global platform for all their documentation. So if you think about commodity trading, it's about buying and selling oil, copper, iron. As they buy iron ore and copper from Brazil and they ship it to China, that produces a lot of paperwork. And all of those paperwork, documentation, everything goes into Alfresco. And so they've got this huge, big bucket of Alfresco that needs to be up 24/7, 365 days. We have a small time window where we can turn it down between the US West Coast going to sleep and China waking up is only when we can do updates and patches. So, it's a very critical system for them. And again, one of their biggest issue was around finding the right content. And so they were big on tagging metadata and all of those things. But again, they were using Alfresco as a huge, big bucket. And most recently here in the UK, we were working with the Department for Business Innovation Skills. And the lights have come on, and hope you can still see the screen. And they do a lot of around document collaborations and records management. And again, because they're a government institution, when we deploy something like Alfresco, they had to migrate all of their legacy information in. And so they have a lot of information. And interestingly, search, again, is a big of very importance to them. And Alfresco has been tested and scaled, but one of the challenges we found with Alfresco is the way Alfresco does searching is, well, most people, when you search for stuff, you don't go beyond the first 2 pages of search results because you tend to find the search results in the first 10, 20 results. So the way Alfresco search works, it returns results fast and it stops searching because it thinks it's returned all the results. But for a government department, they need to have every document with the mention of a particular topic or something, everything returned. So important for them is that search is comprehensive, but yet fast. So you can't take forever. So the challenges for all of these organizations was that they, and it's been talked about today a lot, is that they're rolling out Alfresco Scalable. So they're rolling it out as their corporate platform across the organization, across the globe, and they're putting a lot of information in. And so the big challenge for them is what we call the big unstructured data problem. So how do you scale this? How do you store this content? And how do you access it? So there are challenges. Obviously, some of these are infrastructure outside of Alfresco. So content storage is one. How do you store large videos and things? So Alfresco integrates with Amazon S3 with other object stores. So that's taken care of. There's a lot of around security. So Alfresco is based on group-based security, ACLs. That doesn't scale well when you have a global bucket that you put stuff in and you've got global users. You end up having to create lots of small groups and smaller circles because you want very fine-grained permission controls. So we've done some work around it. I'm not going to cover that in this topic, but there's work around it. The two things that I will cover is obviously, two important things is obviously audit. So for both in financial services and in banking and in government, they need to know who's accessed what, when, and how they did it. And audit needs to be scalable. And Lucas, one of my colleagues, he talked about how we scaled out audit. So audit out of the box with Alfresco puts everything in the database. That doesn't really scale well. So we've got a SQL solution for tracking audit data, and he talked about that in detail. I'm sure his slides will be up. And the thing that I want to really focus on in this, in terms of where we see the real problems and where we've been working on with our R&D team and trying to apply this for some of our customers, is in the search and discovery. It's about, once you've got this big bucket of Alfresco and you've got all of your content in, how do you then make sure you find the right content at the right time? And that's where we've been doing a lot of work, and it's kind of converging. And I'll talk you through those solutions that we're doing. So there's a recent report, if you're interested in, done by AIM, and it's just come out in September, where they looked at the whole search and things. And I'm going to pick out just three things, three questions they've asked and the answers, because it kind of gives it some context in terms of how organizations are dealing with the search in a big bucket. So, one of the questions were, what do you search for? What's important for you? And obviously, there's, the most important, which I've highlighted, is, they wanted to search for recorded knowledge of business intelligence. That's the most important thing an organization would search for. So they're not searching for, they do search for emails and the other content and all of that stuff. But the most important is they want to search for content that's been curated, managed, tagged properly, and saved as enterprise knowledge, and then being able to find it again. So importance is knowledge management is key, and that's what drives search for these organizations. But interestingly, they decide to do these search projects is when they start buying an ECM. So they don't go out and put search on its own. When they make a big investment to replace their ECM platform, they look for search. So, and there's another survey question that says actually most of them, majority of them use search that comes out of the box with their ECM platform. So, and you heard today, yesterday from John Newton about faceted search and all the advanced capabilities Alfresco is doing. But that's only part of the way. There's a lot more they can do in terms of search, because your typical organization is going to buy Alfresco, roll it out, and they would try and use the Alfresco search across the board rather than do anything additional. And obviously, the biggest benefits that organizations are getting with searches is better decision making and more accurate customer response times. So, they do see the benefits. The benefits for organization is the competitive edge, and that's what drives search. But yet, a lot of them expect their ECM to provide search. So a lot of the work that we've been doing, and what I'll be covering on, is talking about how, if you've got Alfresco as a big bucket, which most organizations do, how do you improve search? How do you make knowledge management better? How do you make discovery better? So the whole notion is, how do you exploit the knowledge from your big unstructured data? So there's a lot of work, and a lot of people talk about big data. They talk about log files and custom analytics and click-throughs and all of that kind of structured information. But there's a missing gap in terms of unstructured data, because a lot of the big data that's being generated, 80% of it is unstructured. And it's all being stored in Alfresco. So how do you improve that? So what we've called it, our work, we call it Connecting Intelligence, but effectively it's about how do we reinvent knowledge management for Alfresco? How do we do it better? Take all the other, some of the latest, greatest technologies that are out there, and how do we apply it to the specifically to Alfresco to improve it? And I'll talk through these things so one at a time. So first off, I'm going to talk about content analytics. So this is around semantic enrichment of unstructured data and what that means. So to give you an example, so this is what you've got, Alfresco faceted search. This is a screenshot that I talked about. And you've got these nice filters down here that you can click, and you can filter your results down. And there was a great demo yesterday about how you can filter that and narrow it down. Now, the thing that, obviously, the important thing is you've got to have these facets defined. These facets are driven by metadata on your content. means that someone has to fill in the metadata. You've got to make sure when the users are uploading or saving content, they fill that in. But we all know from with users, they hate form filling. They, if it takes them more than 2 seconds to do something, they won't do it. So they'll just dump it somewhere, and they don't worry about actually filling in the metadata. So if you don't have good set of metadata, faceted search and all of those things kind of become ineffective. So it's important to tag your content. And so the way we've tried to do it is through automation, and the best way to do it is through natural language processing. So by natural language processing, I mean you take a piece of document, you take the text, and you try and understand the text using machine learning to see what is this document talking about, and then to be able to automatically tag a category or a tag or a topic or some kind of information around it. My colleague Johnny just to the previous session talked about the technologies and how you do it, but I'll just talk about the benefits at the moment. So typically, a simple example of semantic tagging would be around named entity extraction. So this is where you'd look for a document and you say, give me any mention of people, organizations, or location. Simple information. You extract that, and then you tag it as a category. Additionally, you can do clever stuff around date, time, events, email addresses as well, or you can do it very domain specific. So, for example, within the health sector, you might pull out specific drugs, names of drugs. You might symptoms and tag that against what the disease is. So you might do very industry specific. So these are examples where you could use machine learning, but also natural language processing to extract all this information automatically out of your documents and then tag it as metadata. So a simple example is I've got an article here about, or a sentence here about Usain Bolt, and then named entity extraction might pull out Usain Bolt because it's a name, Commonwealth in England as Commonwealth as an organization, and England as a location. And it'll pull this information out, and you can tag it as simple metadata. So I'm going to show you what, I've got a quick demo so I can show you how this would work in practice. I don't know if you can see that. Is that clear at the back? Yeah, okay. So we're going to create a site called, and this is using one of the add-ons that we built. So we've created a site. We go in, and the way we do auto tagging is to create a folder, and what we'll do is we'll configure a simple content rule on it. So we create to say we want to tag any content that's to tag the content that's in this folder. So we'll create a simple folder called content links, enhance content. Set it to run in the background. I'm assuming everyone's familiar with Alfresco and they're familiar with the screen. So, I mean, we could set this to run repository wide. This is to do it on a folder by folder basis, so you have some simple, control over where you apply this. And then we upload some sample content. And this is all about tennis players and things. So you've got all that information automatically tagged there as created as tags. So we've identified different tennis players, and we've tagged them as a metadata field that's available. And then when you click through in the article as well, so we've got the metadata there. So some sample demo content that we have. And then we've got all the entities there. We've got the people and organizations there. And then if you click through on them, we've also had some additional information. It's mentioning Messi. So I'll come back to you about where we get this additional information. But for now, we've got some additional information like images and stuff coming out. And we've got that tagged. And we can use this to find similar content. So here's all the articles that are talking about Messi as well. So here's another set of articles, content, with organization. And it's got places as well and people. And it gives you back related documents as well. So just going to skip that through. Okay, so yeah, you can see you've got related documents about other documents talking about Rafael Nadal as well. So, and it pulls out as images. And then this was done on 4.2, so prior to the new faceted search. So we implemented our own faceted searching before, and you can see that it brings back, uses those metadata to drive the facets on the left-hand side, and it also updates the facets as well. So as you click through to Rafael Nadal, it'll only show other facets that are relevant to him, and that way you can see how people are mentioned in content, or places are related to each other within a certain documents based on the content you've uploaded. So it provides those kind of capabilities. So it's a nice, simple, effective solution. You upload it, you automatically tag your content with, in this demo we've done places, people, and organizations, but it could be events and other domain-specific information that you could automatically configure the system to detect, to tag your content, and then being obviously able to drive faceted search. So obviously the benefit is the tagging of metadata, and one of the important things, because it's automatic, it's consistent across the repository, so it's not dependent on people. So it always makes, even if it's wrong and if it's slightly odd, it will be consistently odd, and they'll get it wrong. So it makes finding it easier, as opposed to different people thinking they want to do it differently. And obviously, the more tagging you do, the more facets you've got, and it makes that drilling down to the right document you're looking for much effective. And it's a nice and simple solution to drive search. The next thing I want to talk about is data linking. So the first thing we've done is we've identified names of people, places, organizations, and we've tagged them. But what if we could do something more? What if when we identify those people, can we pull in additional rich set of information about them? And this is the whole concept of tagging that to the knowledge graph. A knowledge graph is a term that Google came up with, and does anyone, who in the room knows what a knowledge graph is? Okay, so we've got a small handful. So it's what Google have done, or the idea of knowledge graph is basically you take concepts. So in this case, you've got things like Da Vinci, Mona Lisa, real world entities, and you link them up to each other. So you build the relationships, because everything we do in this world, everything's related to each other. There is a network. And then each item, so Da Vinci here would have a set of properties like his date of birth, when he died, how old he was, all of that information. And you start linking them to, Da Vinci was, lived in Italy, and you start linking all of this rich set of information together, and you'll be able to pull all of that information together quite quickly. And so this is what Google does, because they've got this, they've indexed the world's content, and they've built this relationship. So for example, when you do search for Usain Bolt, you've got the search results on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, you've got this rich set of information, which is coming from that knowledge graph that Google has about Usain Bolt. It knows Usain Bolt, you're talking about Usain Bolt, the athlete, and not someone else, and Google brings up description, and very specific information about him, pictures, his age, date of birth, full name, weight, and all the additional information. And the way Google does it, because it's got access to Freebase, but another source of rich information which us as an organization, or anyone as an organization could do in terms of having access to the world's knowledge, is to use Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is curated content, it's very rich, it's got a lot of information. So if you could tag your content against Wikipedia, and you can then pull down all of that rich information in Wikipedia and really enhance the power of your search engine or your ECM. And so if you look at Usain Bolt's article, again, there's lots of description in here, but interestingly, they're all, it's all text-based. You've got what he's famous for, he's got his age of date of birth, all of that information is in the text. So one of the first things is obviously to be able to extract Wikipedia content in some kind of structured format that machines can understand. But lo and behold, it's already been done. It's called DBpedia. So if anyone who's not heard of it, so DBpedia is effectively Wikipedia, but it's in machine-readable format. So you can download it. It's an XML format. It's an RDF. And it makes it very it's easy for machines to process. So when we bundle DBpedia with the natural language processing that we've been using, what we could do is what we call named entity extraction is what we used to do, but we can also link it to the knowledge graph. So one way to do it is where we, again, pick out Usain Bolt and Commonwealth in England, we can link it to their corresponding DBpedia or Wikipedia entry. Right? So once we've got Usain Bolt linked to his DBpedia entry, we can go to DBpedia, and we've got all of this rich information, which is this is a web representation, but it's an RDF format, which you can download and machines can read. But you've got this rich information. So you've got his birth date, place of birth, and all this information down here. And you can pull this in. So if we've got information about Usain Bolt in our repository, we can pull all of this information and tag it as additional metadata within our repository to drive our faceted search within Alfresco as well. But not only do we have this set of rich information about Usain Bolt and a lot of other information in Wikipedia, Wikipedia is also multilingual. So you have descriptions in different languages for Usain Bolt. You also have the name Usain Bolt in the different languages, which you can't see the labels, but you've got Japanese, you've got Korean, you've got how it writes in some Cyrillic alphabet as well. So you've got all these, and Arabic as well. So if you, for example, pull this label information when you tag content about Usain Bolt, and I'll give you a demo. If you grab this information and tag it as a metadata, you also provide multilingual search. So someone typing in Arabic, Usain Bolt, will find your English content because you've tagged it with the corresponding language. So you might have German content. As long as you semantically enrich it, you tag it against DBpedia, someone searching with the English phrase or English word or concept would be able to find the German content because DBpedia has been able to do the translation. And there's, DBpedia is one example. If you want to do multilingual search, there's a standard vocabulary called Eurovoc, which provides a lot of translated vocabularies for Europe. So you could do multilingual search within your repository and find content. Obviously, once you found it, you need to be able to read the content, so that's a different problem. But you'll be able to find the content in other languages through your search. And so in the previous demo where you saw that you click on the Messi link and you've got his photo and you've got a description, that comes from Wikipedia. So we've been able to tag this content as Messi. We've then gone up to Wikipedia, pulled down his picture and his description, and we've added it. I mean, this is a simple demo of pulling down that information. We can add it, create a much more rich user interface to be able to do this. So here's an example of where someone's creating the content, and while they're creating it, we can enrich it. And then when we enrich it, we bring a much more rich interface in terms of content authoring, about look at all the concepts we found, but we also pull down their images and we make it much more rich. So these are examples of, as you semantically enrich content, not only when you upload it, but when you're authoring content, you can build beautiful interfaces as well. And you can also build beautiful pages on certain topics by aggregating all of this information as well. The other thing with DBpedia is, this is the URL for Usain Bolt on DBpedia. That's his unique URL. So if every organization or every company that's talking about Usain Bolt, if they were to tag all of their information with this URL, effectively this becomes an ID for Usain Bolt, and everyone knows about which Usain Bolt you're talking about. And in fact, that's what they do. So organizations are sharing their data, like Wikipedia, public data, and they're referencing each other. So they're reusing their data and linking to other data sets to make the information publicly available on the World Wide Web. And this is what the data set looks like. The colors haven't come out right. You've got DBpedia right here, because that's the master reference that everyone seems to link to. And these are all the different other data sets that are people using. And the color codes are for the different themes. So there's location information, there's domain-specific information, there's information about people, and all these other data sets that are being published. And they're all referencing each other. And what this means is that not only do you have Wikipedia as a data source to enrich and tag your content, you've got access to all of this data to be able to enrich and tag your content. And because they all reference each other, once you've got a link to DBpedia, you can kind of walk the network and pull out other information that you can put into your index. And if you were to take this concept further, how does this apply within the enterprise? I mean, this is all public data set. It's great for tagging content, but how do you then apply that within the enterprise? So this is from a picture from a blog from a R&D guy in SAP who's been, as part of his thesis, he talked about the enterprise knowledge graph. And so what they've done is the same way that Wikipedia is machine readable and they've modeled the world's knowledge, they've tried to model a typical organization in terms of linked data. So they said, right, an organization has an employee works on projects, they're based at a location. When they work on projects, they sometimes build a product, and the product has lots of content. And what they've done is they've modeled it. And once they've modeled it, you can then start, if you can enrich your documents against your enterprise knowledge graph, you can then obviously start doing a lot more sophisticated searching just within the enterprise rather than just using the internet. So, and he's got a great diagram where, in fact, what you could do is you could use the best of both worlds. So here they're indexing things like corporate wikis, they've got their internal address book, the HR system, and their document share. So this could be Alfresco. And what they've done is, so they're indexing all of the content from all of these different systems into their knowledge graph, but they're also using geonames, which is the public linked data set to talk about location information, and also tying it to Freebase, which is the knowledge graph that Google uses. So by mashing up both enterprise data and also public data, they're building an enterprise knowledge graph. And if you can just, then you can tag your content not only with information within your system, but you can also tag it with public data as well. So that will drive a lot more sophisticated search solutions that you could use. So what are these search solutions? So I've got a demo that I'll talk you through in terms of what kind of solutions that we could build with this. And this is a prototype. There's a lot more iterations and a roadmap that I could share afterwards in terms of what we're trying to do with this. So this is where we've tagged content in Alfresco. We've enriched it with the linked data cloud and the knowledge graph, and then we're building a search. So, and it's an enterprise product, so it's based on full security, permissions, all of that happens. So first thing is you log in to the system. We called it Sensify for obvious reasons, but yeah, so it's a simple search solution, and then if you just search for things, it brings you back results from various systems. So at the top you can see that it's pulled back Alfresco, but it's also indexed email and also Windows Share. So this is it's a federated search solution. So it integrates with Alfresco, but also it searches other repositories as well, and it gives you faceted search and standard features that you expect from a standard search engine. So yeah, so it's got a whole bunch of information on actors and other content about. It's mainly football content and movie content that we've got. So yeah, so so different content from the different sources by email. So it's only got some content, 4 documents and 4 emails within the system, and then share. Where are we? Okay, right, sorry. So we're searching for, we type in Ronaldo, we get 2 suggestions. And again, so it says, right, I know about 2 Ronaldos. Do you mean Cristiano Ronaldo, the Portuguese football player, or you mean Ronaldo, the Brazilian? And it, pulls down images from Wikipedia, and it shows those images from Wikipedia, as part of your instant search, and it says, which one do you mean? And then if you select one of them, it then just pulls out content that talks about the Brazilian as opposed to the Portuguese. And so it's searching, it's bringing up documents based on concepts rather than just simple keyword search. Yeah, there's nothing in Windows. And again, on the left-hand side, we've pulled up some information from Wikipedia with the image and a simple description. And we can make this, add a lot more information. And this could come from Wikipedia or from your HR system or from your CRM system as well. And it, gives you all the facets and, prunes back all the things about Cristiano Ronaldo. And then if you search for Ronaldo, you get information about Ronaldo, and again, facets that are applicable to just content that talks about Ronaldo. I'm just going to speed this up, conscious of time. And then we have another one where we search for Bale, the actor or the football player, for Gareth Bale or Christian Bale demo. But the real powerful stuff is because we've indexed information against Wikipedia, and we've got that information. Wikipedia has, you know, the model, the knowledge model of Wikipedia has this concept of football players, right? So we pull that information in and we've indexed it. So you could say, okay, give me all content that talks about football players as a concept. I'm not searching for by keywords, just by concept. And then he knows that, okay, football players has these properties on Wikipedia. You know, they have nationality, they have birthplace. So I say, okay, give me all content that talks about football players, but I want to filter by nationality. So give me all football players with nationality Portuguese or Brazilian. Yeah. So, and then it brings you back all content that talks about Brazilian football players. And again, all of this is purely driven by the fact that we've looked at the content, we've enriched it, we built that model down, and the model says, well, I've got lots of content about football players, or I've got information about Ronaldo, he's a football player, and football players have these properties, and you can start searching for these properties. And you can see how this would apply within a enterprise environment. You can start, you know, searching against that knowledge graph and filtering for specific information. Even though, you know, you can give me all information about particular type of projects that were done in a particular period without actually knowing that. So it's a great way of being able to search for information. And here, you know, and it's also multilingual. So you know, you could search for football player, or you can type the, you know, the Portuguese or the Spanish or the Italian equivalent of football player, because that's been translated in Wikipedia, and we have that information in our index, and it'll still bring back the information. So this is this system. I mean, it's built. It's ready. It's going through our internal QA system to be able to launch it as a you know, as a solution for our customers. And you know, I think this will really help some of our customers with the big data search problem. And you know, we're getting a lot of interest. So the guys are out talking about our solution. So we call, you know, multilingual. They're talking at ApacheCon in November, and they're also talking at Lucian Revolution. So these are the ApacheCon is the biggest Apache conference. Because interestingly, we built all of this stuff on open source technology, and I'll talk about the technology at the end. But Lucian Solar Revolution is the big solar conference in the US. So this is getting a lot of attraction, and they're talking about it. So if you're at these conferences, you can find out a lot more technical details about what they're presenting. The other stuff I wanted to quickly cover, and this is from an audit reporting perspective. You know, you heard about the new reporting features in Alfresco, but we've implemented a scalable audit system on the back end to track audit across the repository. What we've done is we track all activities across Alfresco, and it provides all of this real-time analysis of your system, so you can monitor it and you can track it. But the real reason why we did it is for content recommendation. So if you want to start suggesting content to people, you need to track how they're using the system and then being able to feed that in. So what we have is, you know, you've got repository. So this is what it looks like in records management. You've got audit history, but we've done it across the whole repository. And you can track events, and you could do analytics as well. But obviously, you know, Alfresco's got much better reporting now. But what we've got is we've got all of that rich data in Alfresco about who's doing what, who's looking at what. And what we can then do with it is obviously machine learning. Once we've got that information, we can do some simple stuff. I've just got the 5-minute warning, so I'm going to start speeding up. So we could do simple things like content recommendation. So there's, you know, you can rate content in Alfresco, and based on the rating, we can start recommending content to people based on, you know, it's very similar to how Amazon does it. We can then take that next step further and apply some detailed machine learning, and Johnny covered this, as I said, in a previous topic in terms of machine learning. And there's two types of machine learning we've done. There's a supervised and unsupervised. Supervised is where you've got to give it some training data. So you've got to say, you know, manually tag some content and say, here you go, and then the system will learn from it and then apply that across the repository. Unsupervised is where it will look at the content and try and come up with some kind of classification and topic categorization as well. So there's pros and cons of different techniques, and I'm not going to go into that. But the advantage of both these techniques is the fact that they will assign categories, topics, and they can cluster your content as well. They can, provide this rich set of metadata, which you can then pass on to your facets as well. I do have a demo I could show you later, but I'm going to skip it. How do we do it? So how do we build all of these capabilities? We use entirely an open source stack. So we use Apache Istanbul. The R&D guys we've got committers on Apache Istanbul, Apache Momota. So Apache Istanbul is a semantic enrichment pipeline. So if you think about what OpenCalais or Autonomy used to do, it does pretty much the same thing, but it's open source under an Apache license. Apache Momota does the linked data. So, pulling down data from DBpedia and being able to provide that within the enterprise and also build your own enterprise. That's what Apache Momota does. So we enrich it against the linked data. We push it into Solr. And we index it. The machine learning is done through Mahout, Mallet, and OpenNLP. The content indexing is all done through Apache Manifold. So it's an entirely open source stack. And the great thing about all of these technologies is they scale well. And they scale well so you can build a software as a service element to it. And that's effectively what we've done. We've taken those elements and we call it RedLink. We built it out as a software as a service element. So all of those demos I showed you, with the Alfresco integration, you simply drop an Alfresco AMP file, you install it, and it uses software as a service, sends the text content out, analyze it, gives you back the information that you can then use within your Alfresco repository. And these are the technologies, so you can go out and build it, or you could use the SaaS service, which is free. Because we're headquartered in London, the SaaS service is actually hosted in Europe, so it's in a Europe data center, so hopefully that's not an issue. But it does the faceted search, provides you related content and recommendation, but also the enrichment. And we're looking at things like fact extraction to be able to pick out specific clauses in contracts. Those are the domain-specific natural language processing techniques that we can apply, but that will then give you a lot more richer information that you can tag. Today we can do content, and obviously we do blogs and wikis text content, but video is an area that we're working on. So we're in a couple of European research projects where we're doing this. So we can do things like face detection from videos and tag then who the person is, and then tag the name of that person as a metadata. So you saw this yesterday about all the rich features coming out in Alfresco in terms of video management and image management. Well, you can upload a video, automatically detect who the people are, and tag it as metadata. So we'll hope to have a proof of concept in the next 6 to 12 months to showcase, hopefully, at the next Alfresco Summit. So to summarize, every organization's having a big unstructured data problem. Everyone's talked about it the last couple of days. Alfresco is a great platform for managing that content, but you've got to make sure you tag your content, mark it up so you could really make use of that information. And faceted search is a great feature, but you've got to fill those facets with metadata, and the best way to do it, I think, is with semantic enrichment and machine learning. These are products. Some of the stuff is being used at customers. I can't. In fact, I could show you a quick customer. I'm not meant to do this, but I will show you a customer. So here's a customer which has got, it's the World Health Organization. They've got search on their website. This is their current production site search. They've got facets. They've got 3 facets that you can search on. And, let me just search for malaria again. And, it gives you, that's Chrome giving me autocomplete on malaria. So I search for malaria and it gives you this information. This is the new enhanced search that we've built for them, which they're piloting internally. So it's not live yet. The number, and these are all been using the RedLink service. They've tagged all of this additional metadata on the left-hand side. And not only that, if I were to go do my malaria search again, it's giving me topics, country that start with MAL, and it also title. So it's giving me much more richer search experience, all because we've tagged the content. So you can see the contrast between this in terms of what's possible once you've tagged it with faceted searching, versus this which has got faceted searching, but they don't have the rich metadata to go with it. So that's an example of where customers are using it in production. But we are keen to get other customers because it'll help us fine-tune our business, the domain-specific customizations. And obviously, we'll be very, looking for case studies as well. So if anyone's interested in trying out these technologies, so come talk to me now or after the presentation. Any questions? Okay. Sorry, ladies first. Yeah.
You talked about natural language processing. How smart is it? Can you recognize lowercase, uppercase, spelling mistakes, or it has to be exact?
No, we could detect spelling lowercase. So it goes through, this is where Johnny might help me. So it goes through a, what do you call it? Yeah, pre-processing. So you pre-process it to fix all of those errors, and you then just take the key the words, and then you then do enrichment on that.
Can you, within the features of your software, are you allowing people to tweak the machine learning algorithms? So, for example, specifying the key terms in non-structured data unsupervised?
Not yet, but that's one of the areas we're working on. Is this whole, and that's one of the challenges. Is about with machine learning, you build a model and then you push the stuff in, but that model becomes out of date very soon, especially with, what I do this week to what I do next week is very different. So one of the challenges, how do you keep that model updated and relevant? And through feedback is one way of doing it. But that's an area that we're focusing on. And so we do have a solution. We just need to build it with Alfresco and test it with the domain. And with a lot of these things, and as you saw with the demos, it's the footballers and movie stars, because that's what developers like playing with. But it's only when you start using real customer data that you start fine tuning those things. So yeah.
Sorry, just on that point. I mean, there's a lot of RDF banks information for biohealth information.
Yeah.
Are you able to connect to those?
We.
Or is it just like Wikipedia?
No, we can. So one of the areas we're looking at, there's a big push within healthcare. So the healthcare, there's this SNOMED CT codes, which is quite good. So you can tag electronic patient records. So that's an area we're focusing on. Biomedicine, there's a lot of ontologies, but they already do have proprietary solution that kind of does something already. So we're trying to see where the quick wins are. And electronic patient record seems to be quite hot at the moment. So. Gabriel. Yeah.
Since it's open source, can I still bring in my own ontology, my own taxonomies, my own acronyms and synonyms?
Yeah, that's the next step. So there's an API that you could, if you've got your ontology now, if you can load your data in, there's an API. So what we're now working on is a nice simple dashboard where you could, for simple users, you can build a scarce ontology. But you've got to use the API if it's a full, OWLIM ontology. But yeah, you can customize. DBPD is a great example, but yeah, custom ontologies is where it, yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, Tariq.
So as search gets better and better, enriched by sort of tagging and linking and some of the really cool things you've talked about, are you finding that your customers are trying to fit their enterprise content less and less to predefined schemes, corporate file plans and these kinds of things? Do you think actually the two are going together, increased capability in search and reduced effort on trying to fit their corporate data to perhaps outdated schemes?
Yeah, I would say that we're seeing that very much with Alfresco records management in terms of how Alfresco does, it's got in-place records management makes it easier to automate. And so, people are less worried about it. But you're right, the better search gets, the less worried they're about. But the challenge you've got is it's, getting people to tag and mark up their content is a big challenge, and no one does it consistently. And you're never going to solve it. I think people are people. So you're going to have to automate it, and by automating, they're going to get lazier, but hopefully the automation gets better than faster than they get lazy. So.
In batch processing, and especially in multilingual content, how do you handle errors? Because NLP will cause errors. How do you handle them, or how do you let your end users handle them?
So yeah, that's the area, the next area we're working on, where you could feed back and correct errors and then that improves it. That feedback loop is missing at the moment. And technically it's possible, but it's how do you represent the user interface in Alfresco for a document, you know. So it's mainly the user interface and how do you get that right. But yeah, that's the next area of working, is how do you that feedback loop. Okay. All right, if there's no more questions, thanks a lot for coming. Thank you.